Well, Donald Trump has made himself another endorsement here in Missouri. Good morning. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. It's great to have you here on KCMO 95.7 FM. As always, we are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Well, if you were waiting for Donald Trump to give you another key endorsement in the Missouri Attorney General race, well, guess what? You have been let down. Donald Trump did not endorse. Now, he will tell you he endorsed in the Missouri Attorney's General race, but he did not endorse. He endorsed both guys, just like he did last week in the Missouri governor's race, when he endorsed Mike Kehoe, Bill Eigel, and Jay Ashcroft.
That helps the winning percentage.
Right. Well, Trump does like to brag about how, the people he endorsed, 90% of them win or whatever the number is. Well, it's easy to run up that number, John, to your point, when you're endorsing both guys, and both guys, one of them's going to win.
You endorse Eric or all the other ones, yeah.
Yeah, or 2 years ago it was Eric, when there were two Erics on the ballot. Now, back-to-back weeks, Trump has basically endorsed everybody who has a chance to win in Missouri. Oh, brother. So here's his post on Truth Social from last night. Missouri has two highly respected candidates running for the important office of Attorney General. Your current AG, Andrew Bailey, and one of my very talented lawyers in private life, Will Scharf. Both have fearlessly confronted the radical left's destructive lawfare and weaponization of justice with great wisdom, courage, and strength. The people of Missouri can have incredible confidence that your next Attorney General will fight tirelessly to protect our beloved Constitution, safeguard our inalienable rights, and restore liberty and justice for all caps. These two men are truly outstanding in every way, shape, and form. I am honored to give both Andrew Bailey and Will Scharf my complete and total endorsement. Neither one will ever let you down. Well, by the way, politicians inherently let us down. That's what they do. So, yes, whoever wins will end up letting us down because that's what politicians do, first and foremost. But either way, are you getting sick of, the endorsement, non-endorsement? I'm just asking on the Missouri side. You can just text in at 913-408-7957. I'm kind of to the point where I'm just just stay out of it. Love you, Trump, pulling for you here on November 5. But I really don't need the vote for either guy. Both guys are great. I mean, it doesn't do anything for me anymore. We're here on the ground, obviously. We're talking to all these candidates. They come on this show. You hear them. If you miss them, you can always catch those interviews on the podcast. When you search for Pete Mundo, search for KCMO, you'll find it there. But I'm genuinely wondering if you're at the point where you're just if you're going to do this, just kind of keep playing golf. It's all good. I'm not sure any of us are sitting here with bated breath just waiting on Donald Trump to give the endorsement of basically everybody who has a chance to win. I'm not. And frankly, I think this audience, which obviously overwhelmingly likes Donald Trump, but also consumes this show, probably has a better idea with who these candidates are and where they stand on the issues and what you prefer in your either gubernatorial candidate or your attorney general candidate. You know better than Trump at this point. I mean, let's be honest. Trump, yes, knows these guys. He knows Will Scharf. It's one of his personal attorneys. He's met Andrew Bailey. Andrew Bailey was on the show yesterday and said he met with Trump a couple of weeks ago. But he's not really vetting their policy positions as much as we will on this show or you will going to grassroots events, with these individuals, politics and a pints that we do with these folks. So it's very different in terms of what you know about these candidates being on the ground here in Missouri. And then, of course, also, what's going on when it comes to just hearing these guys and hearing about their visions, whether it's for governor of Missouri or whether it's for attorney general in Missouri. So I'm over it. I really don't need they're all great, everyone's awesome, vote for anybody. I think the endorsement thing has been overblown in large part, but obviously having Trump's backing right now is enormous. But if he's going to do it, just give it to one guy. And if you're not going to give it to one guy, just be like, hey, Missouri, listen to Mundo in the morning. Listen to KCMO. And decide for yourself who. Now, that's, if Trump posted that on Truth Social, I would just die. Like, the show wouldn't go on anymore. John and Mark.
Such a nice man.
That'd be pretty awesome. Yes, that'd be great. I would love that if Trump actually ended up doing that. I'm not expecting or projecting that anytime soon, but that would be pretty great. But he did it again yesterday, saying either guy is awesome in the AG race. So now you got to keep listening to us and hear for the candidates and figure out for yourself who you prefer to be your next attorney general in the state of Missouri. Now, speaking of, 6 days to go until the governor's race, the primary, of course, on the Missouri side of the state line, I do want to take a couple of minutes and just clarify some points that came out of yesterday's news that we broke here on KCMO. We broke the news, and it was picked up by Tony's Kansas City and a couple others, that one of the largest donors, or I should say a $150,000 donor to Bill Eigel's PAC is a law firm that is owned and run by a guy named Tim Dollar. Tim Dollar is a Kansas City, Missouri attorney who worked with Jean Peters Baker's office to put Eric DeValkenair in prison. So I shared the screenshots of this yesterday on my X page. It also is up on my Facebook page. And, I expected the attacks to be predictable on social media, the emails I got, the text messages, the whole thing. You do with the information what you want. I fell into this information. All right? That's how it works. I then shared it with you, the audience. If I had gotten some information about my Kehoe that was not out there in the news cycle, and I could confirm it was legitimate, I would have shared that as well. Same thing with Jay Ashcroft. So this information comes to me about the guy who helped put Eric DeValkenair behind bars, funding Bill Eigel's PAC to the tune of $150,000, and I share it with you. And it's telling to me that when the attacks become personal on me, and the attacks suggest that I'm doing this to support somebody else, which is not the case. If other people wanted to feed me information that is not out there in the public, if I could confirm it was factually accurate, I'd share it with you as well. That tells me that you can't really defend the indefensible. And, I think Bill Eigel will be a fine governor. I think Mike Kehoe and Jay Ashcroft also have, the abilities to be solid governors for the state of Missouri. I believe that for all three guys. They each have their pros and their cons, their positives and their negatives. I believe that about all three of them. None of them are perfect in my book, but they all have things that I like. They all have things that I question. That's for every single one of these guys. But at the same time, when I stumble upon something and I share it with you and no one else has the information, well, that's my job. What am I going to do? Sit on that to protect one of the candidates? If somebody else wanted to give me something about, a candidate they didn't like that they thought was damaging, assuming I could confirm it, I'd share it too. Because, yeah, for the most part, we're a talk show. We're not a news organization per se. But with our connections, sometimes we fall into certain items of news. So when that happens, you're going to find out about it. I'm going to bring it to you. Because if I've got it, then you deserve to have it. I'm not here to protect anybody. We're not on anybody's payroll. I've never done an endorsement in a primary in my life. But, this is just kind of all fair game. And remember as well, Bill Eigel has spent a lot of time talking about this donation that came to Mike Kehoe's PAC on behalf of Bill Gates' son. And you know what? That's weird too. I don't really like anybody in Missouri or Kansas having their PAC funded to the tune of $75,000 by Bill Gates' son. I don't like that one bit. And I talked about that the last couple of days. But, it's that campaign that's brought up, hey, let's start talking about PAC endorsements, or I should say PAC donations, even though, campaigns can't really get involved with PACs. So if one campaign is going to open up the door to talking about PAC donations, you can't then be upset if somebody else goes down the road of questioning PAC donations? It's either all fair game or it's not. 913-408-7957. It's 6:15. We're getting it rolling on a Wednesday morning here on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up, the most important part of yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill, and it puts all the conspiracy theorists around Donald Trump's ear to rest. We'll tell you what that was coming up next on KCMO. Well, that's a good point. Thanks for your text at 913-408-7957. Pete, if you had not shared the information about Eigel donors to his PAC, then you would have been accused of hiding something on his behalf. It's exactly right. And that's how I look at it. You know, if I get information about Mike Kehoe, if I get information about Jay Ashcroft that is legitimate, fact-based, and is not out there for the voter, then we will bring it to light here on 95.7 FM KCMO. Now, speaking of things that have come to light in the last 24 hours on the national level, this came out of the hearings on Capitol Hill yesterday, where you had leadership in the FBI and the Secret Service getting grilled by members of the U.S. Senate. And there has been, really since Donald Trump was shot, there has been conspiracy theories out there about whether or not Trump was actually shot. You get washed-up loser SportsCenter anchors like Keith Olbermann, who has completely lost his mind. I mean, Mark, I know you see Keith Olbermann on X. I mean, tell me that guy has not just gone off the deep end.
Oh, yeah. He's flailing out there in the ocean.
It's really sad for a guy who was brilliant back in the early to mid-'90s on The Big Show, SportsCenter with Stuart Scott. Those were the heydays.
Yeah, he's been adrift for many a year, though.
Yeah, that's true. Trump broke him like Trump broke many people. He just totally smashed Keith Olbermann's brain. And, I mean, the guy is all in on conspiracy theories, as are many people, you know, on social media on the left, questioning whether or not Trump was really shot, whether or not it was a setup, whether or not he just cut his ear when he fell to the ground. So John Kennedy, one of our favorite U.S. senators from Louisiana, asked leadership in the FBI yesterday to confirm that Donald Trump was in fact shot in the ear. And here's what he said.
Mr. Abate, am I saying your name right?
Yes, Senator. Thank you.
You are the Deputy Director of the FBI, is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Is there any doubt in your mind or in the collective mind of the FBI that President Trump was shot in the ear by a bullet fired by the assassin crooks?
Senator, there is absolutely no doubt in the FBI's mind whether former President Trump was hit with a bullet and wounded in the ear. No doubt, there never has been.
Okay.
I've been part of this investigation since the very beginning, and that has never been raised.
You're sure?
Yes.
It wasn't a space laser.
No.
It wasn't a murder hornet.
Absolutely not.
It wasn't Sasquatch.
No, Senator.
It was a bullet.
It was a bullet, Senator. 100%.
Fired by crooks.
Yes, sir.
That hit President Trump in the ear and almost killed him.
100%, Senator.
Okay. Glad we cleared that up.
All right, well done there by John Kennedy, clearing that up because, you know, I even get some of the texts here at KCMO where people are implying and suggesting that, well, you know, do we really know whether or not Donald Trump was actually shot in the ear? Was it shrapnel? Was it a cut from the Secret Service? Was it, you know, a cut when he fell to the ground? What exactly happened there? Well, now, just in case you were wondering, because the FBI is not incentivized to help Donald Trump. In fact, you know, we know based on Donald Trump's history as a politician, the FBI has not exactly been kind when it comes to their dealings with Donald Trump. So in this specific instance, to sit there right now and suggest anything other than Donald Trump was nearly assassinated and Thomas Crooks wanted Donald Trump dead. So to suggest anything other than that is a conspiracy. It is not based in any kind of a fact.
Dare we say denier?
Assassination attempt denier,
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, why not?
That's good. The AADs, we can call them for short here on KCMO. The assassination attempt deniers. So we're going to start losing their minds now on our text line since we have branded them as something. That's a great thing to call them, deniers. So now you sit here if you are a denier, and what are you exactly latching onto? What are you hanging your hat on? Because as I watched that yesterday, and I watched it, obviously we covered some of it towards the end of the show, and then I watched it into, I guess, the early afternoon, late morning, early afternoon, and it was just mind-blowing to me how incompetent these leaders are for the Secret Service and the FBI. And it genuinely makes you question, who can you trust anymore in these positions of bureaucratic power? I mean, I watched leadership of the Secret Service blame the local podunk police in Butler County, Pennsylvania yesterday. That's what I saw. And I thought to myself, you guys are the freaking Secret Service. You're the freaking Secret Service. And you're blaming it on, Joe Blow, cop in Butler, Pennsylvania? That's ridiculous. Your job, the only reason you exist, is to protect the most targeted people in or around the United States government. And target number one for a long time has been Donald Trump. And you failed, and not just failed, you failed colossally to the point where a no-name 20-year-old punk is able to climb up onto a roof as he's looking around the facility for hours that day. He's noted as a suspicious individual. He's got a rangefinder that you would take out to a golf course on his person. He's shooting with that rangefinder towards the stage, and the Secret Service doesn't have the wherewithal to do anything about it. And they allow, with a suspicious person noted out in the audience, they allow Donald Trump to take that stage in an open field in Butler County, Pennsylvania. And this country came within a quarter inch from being so different today than it was 1 month ago. And by the way, there's still way more questions than there are answers. There's no conspiracy theory on that front. It's just amazing that 2.5, 3 weeks after the fact, these guys still don't have a lot of answers. And they still have a lot more questions they've got to answer. And by the way, Josh Hawley is going to be here later in the morning, 9:05. We'll talk to the Missouri U.S. Senator about what happened yesterday on Capitol Hill and much more. So set the alarm, 9:05. Josh Hawley will be here on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up, all right, there is a way I think that Taylor Swift actually could end up endorsing in this presidential election. I'll tell you what that is next on KCMO. All right, I have figured out a way that Taylor Swift could end up endorsing in this presidential election. I have been steadfast on saying that she won't, and I still don't believe she will. So don't get me wrong here. I'm not changing my prediction that I've had for the better part of 6 months now. But I bring this up because Bill Maher got some attention yesterday for predicting that Travis Kelce is going to dump Taylor Swift sooner rather than later. He said here on a podcast that the singer, Taylor Swift, was too old to be rocking the Chiefs jersey at his games and thought her high school style declarations of love will end up being too much for Travis. Well, Maher then went on to say, quote, he's going to dump her, though. You know that. With her, it's like the Gatorade at the Super Bowl. You know you're going to get dumped. You just don't know when. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen. I think it's been great for Kansas City to have these two, of course, in love. It's brought a tremendous amount of attention to the Chiefs, to Kansas City, to Arrowhead Stadium, all those things that have happened since Taylor first showed up at that Chicago Bears game in late September last season. But if Travis were to dump Taylor Swift and it were to happen before the election, I could see a scenario where Taylor Swift, out of spite, then goes out there and gets overtly political and says, you know what? I'm all in. I'm with her. I'm riding with Kamala. Let's go. From riding with Biden to, I'm with her, Kamala Harris. I'm all in. November 5. Don't vote for Trump. Swifties, get out there and get on the Kamala Harris train. That's the only scenario in which I could see that happening. Now, I hope it doesn't. I'm not, like Bill Maher, predicting it to happen or anything like that. I'm just sitting here saying that if there is a way for Taylor Swift to get involved in this election, that would be it. She gets dumped by Travis Kelce. She's pissed off at men, as she oftentimes has been during her career, and she says, screw it, Kamala's my girl, let's go Swifties, let's win an election.
I mean, F them.
Yeah, basically. That's how this is going to go. 913-408-7957. So I'm not hedging my bets here. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But that's the only way that she will ultimately get involved. If she is still a couple with Travis Kelce come November 5, there will be no endorsement from Taylor Swift in this election. Kansas City, Steven. What's happening, Steven? You're on KCMO.
Oh, Pete, call me a sucker for love, but man, I think this is for real. I think Bill Maher has no idea what he's talking about. It's just a total clickbait. He was on with Hawk Tua girl, so he was giving her. Last time I saw Bill Maher, he was giving the Hawk Tua lady career advice. So that kind of tells you where Bill Maher is in the sphere of Hollywood. But I mean, I've been following the tabloids pretty closely. And she's coming back to live in Kansas City. This is a real deal. I mean, this is I think this is settling down time. She's got a house here. I mean, she's going to spend at least half the year after the tour. So I don't see her endorsing anyone. I don't see her. Why would you get in the middle? She doesn't need the money. She doesn't need the publicity. She doesn't need, she's fine where she is. I don't understand other than liberals wanting her to endorse. I don't understand.
Well, I understand that part, Stephen. I mean, they're desperate, man. They got to break out every Hollywood elite they can. Everything you said, I agree with. Every single thing. There's no benefit to her. There's nothing to come out of it. But the only way I see it happening is if he were to dump her. But I agree. I'm pulling for true love here, Stephen. Don't get me wrong on that front. I want this to work out.
This is how weak the Harris campaign is you have to roll out Bill Maher on his podcast with Hawk Tua girl to try and convince Taylor Swift. He's doing this sort of jujitsu where he says, well, this is all just a Hollywood relationship and she will endorse Kamala Harris. No, I mean, this is, you don't buy a house with someone and decorate. I mean, it's been in the tabloids. It's not.
Yes.
I'm not talking at school here. You don't start decorating houses with people and going to gated communities unless you are in. You are pot committed. And I wouldn't take Bill Maher's word, as far as I could throw it, unless you're Hawk.
I agree with you there. I agree with you there. Yeah, and you're right. He was on a podcast with the Hawk Tua girl, which kind of says a lot. Thank you, Stephen, about Bill Maher's career at this point. But he still does a good job, and he makes some sense once in a while. He's still a rabid liberal, but he does make some sense once in a while. For those of you wondering, by the way, the question has been asked on the text line. Taylor Swift's tour, or this leg of the tour, wraps up in London on Tuesday, August 20th. That, of course, is 2 weeks before the NFL season opens up here in Kansas City with the Chiefs and the Ravens on Thursday, September, whatever that is, 5th or 6th. So I imagine that she will be here at Arrowhead that day. She then is off until Thursday, November 14th, when she picks up the tour in Toronto, John. So that is after the election. So I think we'll have a 3-month stretch where the only time we'll hear or see Taylor Swift is at Chiefs games.
Well, I think Stevens pointed to a sign of commitment when you decorate a house with someone. Yeah. Apparently, they're decorating a suite there. Story out, 2 days ago maybe, about her pictures hanging in Kelsey's suite as he kind of remodeled it for the new season coming. Something from the Eras tour. So there's another sign of commitment for Steven.
Well, Bill Maher is just wishful thinking. The reality is,
right.
Bill Maher.
He wants to say, I said it first whenever it might happen. Young love. So he said, the old man. So.
Yeah. Well, it's a great thing because tomorrow nobody remembers what Bill Maher says on this front.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, the 1% chance, he can look like a genius.
Yeah, that's the only thing. People go out and they say things outrageous in timing. Like they just are going for that, And everybody will forget if it doesn't come to pass anyway.
Exactly. Now, Bill Maher, if you go back in the archives, I found this clip from March. Here is what he said back in March about Taylor Swift in the upcoming election.
The big Valentine story is Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl, and Bob, you've covered many Super Bowls.
I have.
I have hesitated to cover Taylor Swift like it's a national news story, but I swear to God, after all my years of experience doing this is a national news story in the sense that this is a person who could literally swing the election. I don't know what that says about this country.
So that was Bill Maher back in March. I haven't bought that either. I mean, I just, I've never thought that there is a celebrity in this current climate who could actually swing an election. Maybe get more people out to vote in California and New York who already love her, and we know how those states are voting, but swing an election in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Arizona, and in Georgia, that person, that celebrity does not exist. Only Donald Trump as a candidate is the person who could really do that. And, of course, the Democrats likely have Kamala Harris, but really they run more of a machine. It's not even about the candidate if they end up pulling this thing off. On the text line, Pete, don't kid yourself. You'd interview Hawk to a girl as well. Don't act like you wouldn't. You're a clown. No, hold on a second here. I would interview, and I like interviewing people outside of the political realm. I mean, we do sports here. We've interviewed Barry Manilow in the last couple of weeks on this show. I don't know what I would ask Hawk to a girl. I mean, some of you might want me to get weird about it, but I don't do that. So I don't know what I would ask Hawk to a girl. So I'm not sure I would interview her. And I get email pitches all the time. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I would talk to Hawk to a girl about, John.
Well, you're a clown, Pete. Do I amuse you? Do the Joe Pesci. How do I amuse you? How am I funny? No, you said I'm funny. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's, Goodfellas reference. You're done for the day, John. See you tomorrow. Well done.
You could ask her
nice
if she's
work.
endorsing in the Missouri governor race.
Yeah, I could. I don't know if she's an Igel Ashcroft or Kehoe gal, but we'll see. And would they want the Hawk Tua endorsement? That's the real question.
Everybody does.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we're done here. 913-408-7957 before we get in any more trouble. All right, 2 nights ago, White Dudes for Kamala. The call took place. Was a quarterback in the NFL, one of the chief rivals to the Chiefs. Was this quarterback on the call? The rumors are swirling. We'll tell you who and what actually happened with this quarterback coming up next on KCMO. Well, Joe Burrow, quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, almost had his man card completely revoked here in the last 36 hours or so when rumors started to surface that he was on the Zoom on Monday night, the White Dudes for Kamala Harris Zoom call that took place Monday night, and was basically just a soy boy session of losers on behalf of the likely nominee for the Democratic Party. Well, yesterday, the Bengals had to put out an official statement saying that Joe Burrow did not attend White Dudes for Kamala Harris fundraising call. This started to pop up on social media. Several tweets went viral claiming that among the celebrities that were on this Zoom on Monday night were the Cincinnati Bengals franchise quarterback. However, the Bengals commented locally to WLWT in Cincinnati, local TV station, that Burrow was not on this fundraising call. So, by the way, if you missed any of the fundraising call from Monday night, I was on it because, white dudes for Kamala, that's my thing. Here's what it sounded like.
I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
Over the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about men.
I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. I stood over my kid's bed and I wept.
White nationalists in MAGA, they want to speak for you specifically as white men.
In the marginalized communities that educate me every single day, that this is a constant education for all of us.
Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration. And no matter how high she jumps, no matter how many degrees she has, no matter how good her grades are, she's never good enough because they're always moving the line.
What a variety of whiteness we have here, with like a rainbow of beige.
A rainbow of beige, John. Still one of my favorite lines.
Eggshell. Looked a little eggshell than beige to me. I don't know.
Oh, we got pasty white. We got, tan white. We got it all covered. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was. You should have seen the whiteness on the call. So we all have our White Dudes for Harris shirts coming here to the studios in the next week or so. They're on back order. So as soon as we get them, we'll post a photo here on the KCMO Talk Radio social media pages. That way you can see John, Mark, and myself with our White Dudes for Kamala T-shirts that we'll wear loud and proud. I think there'll be a lot of confusion around the building, by the way, when that day comes.
Who was the drama king about the 249 years of pain on their shoulders and all the degrees and moving the what was it, the chains, or moving the goalposts or whatever? Yeah.
I don't know who that was. I've kind of lost touch with my C-list Hollywood stars, so I don't know who that was.
Speechwriter,
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Josh Gad, the voice of Olaf from Frozen, was the guy who wept over his kid's bed when Trump was elected until Mark pointed that out yesterday. So, I don't know who a lot of those people are. I saw Mayor Pete Buttigieg and some of the other folks on there, but I had not seen or not recognized some of the others.
Where's Clooney? Is he in on this?
I don't know if Clooney was on the call. I might have missed Clooney in the intro, but, he's technically a white dude, and we know he's for Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah. I would assume.
So we got that much.
Well, he wanted Biden out. Well, I don't know who he was for, right?
True. That's a good point.
I assume he would be in there somewhere.
Could you imagine Chris Jones after sacking Joe Burrow if he was actually on the White Dudes for Kamala call? I mean, Chris Jones would have just he would have never heard the end of it. That would have been a thing of beauty to kind of get the hot mic on those two guys after getting smashed for a 10-yard loss by Chris Jones. Why don't you go back to the White Dudes for Kamala call, soy boy?
He sacks Burrow and then he does fight.
Oh, man. that would be
blow
great. That would blow some minds. I saw the St. Louis Cardinals were doing that, maybe 2 weeks ago? A couple of their players, after big hits, got to second base after a double and then looked at their dugout and did fight, like Trump did, of course, after he was nearly killed. And that sent left-wing social media folks off the deep end. I did see that correctly, right?
Yeah, that's what took whatever his name is, off the
Keith
deep
Olbermann?
end again. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, I thought I saw that from him. He was all bent out of shape. But Joe Burrow, listen. Joe Burrow has been a thorn in the side of the Chiefs, more so than really any other quarterback in the league since Mahomes started his run, winning that AFC Championship game here at Arrowhead, 3 years ago? Then, of course, we got him back the year after. But either way, that was one of those things that I was hoping for Joe Burrow's sake was not true, especially when Trump saw him at a UFC match this offseason, and they posed for a photo and the whole thing. So they appeared to be pretty cordial. But that was not true. If you see those rumors, you can shut them down. Now, as for Kamala, she is set to announce her running mate in Philadelphia. on Tuesday. And that is leading to a lot of speculation that it is going to be the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. Now, her camp is saying where the announcement is taking place should not be looked into too much. But I'm not buying it. Josh Shapiro is her best pick. There were some rumors yesterday that it could be Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. But if I'm Kamala Harris and I want to strike some fear into Donald Trump, I am going with the very popular governor in Pennsylvania. Trump has been leading in the polls in that state, and if he is able to pull that off, then it's basically game, set, match, because it looks like he's a lock in North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. She's got to pull out Pennsylvania. And Shapiro is very popular down there. So if she's able to get him on his ticket and he can just deliver one state, that changes the makeup of the entire election. On the national political scene, all eyes, of course, are on Kamala Harris as she is the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. She was in Atlanta yesterday, and I thought back to a conversation we had just over a week ago on this show with an Atlanta-based radio host, Eric Erickson. And I asked him what to watch in his swing state when it comes to how Kamala Harris actually goes about running the campaign. And what he said on this show that I will not forget is that if Kamala Harris comes to Georgia and just goes to Atlanta, then she's not serious about winning the state. If she is going to win Georgia, then she needs to succeed in suburbs and exurban parts of the Atlanta metro. He said she can't just spend her time trying to run up the vote in Atlanta. It's not going to be enough. So where does she go yesterday? Well, right into Atlanta. She was there in Atlanta. She's trying to, of course, roll through some of the swing states here and, lock down herself as the presumptive nominee ahead of the DNC starting in Chicago coming up on August the 19th. And, they had all the signs up. And they also had, I guess, someone I'm not all that familiar with, Megan Thee Stallion, who was performing there. And there was video of people actually leaving the rally after the performance. So, they were just there for the concert. They weren't actually there for Kamala Harris and her event, and they didn't want to really hear her talk while she was in Atlanta yesterday. So they got a crowd of about 10,000 people. And, listen, it looks good. But remember this. It's a week and a half in, and she has not done any significant media. There's been no sit-down interview. There's been no press conference. All it's been is the media fawning over her. And there's good news for Donald Trump on this front, and there's bad news for Donald Trump on this front that I will get to here in a moment. However, I've got to play this clip of Kamala last night, breaking out her new accent. That's right. Kamala Harris in Atlanta sounds like a totally different person as they continue to pander to people based on where they are in the country. So let's roll Kamala Harris and what she sounded like last night during her rally in Atlanta, Georgia.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
Yes, we will. She's got to go to the Barack Obama school of, changing your accent based on where you are. And instead of going to the Barack Obama school, it sounds like she went to the Hillary Clinton school of changing your accent.
I don't feel no ways tired.
That's right.
Come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me.
Oh, man, that's a gem from 2008. Hillary Clinton in the black church, quoting James Cleveland as she throws on the thick accent. But, Kamala sounded more – play that one more time for me, Mark. Kamala Harris sounded more – she was going for the urban Southern accent, but she sounded more like a white Southern granny is what she sounded like.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
Am I just hearing things, or is that more of like the white Southern apple pie grandma than it is the urban Atlanta accent that she was trying to put on there? I don't know. 2024. That's what I'm hearing, John.
Trying to get some Paula Deen going there, I think, maybe.
Yes! Yes! Thank you. That's what I was looking for. It's the Paula Deen sound that she had, which I don't think that's like what she was trying to hit in urban Atlanta last night. So she's got to get herself to the Barack Obama School of Linguistics, where he was, in a pretty sharp way, able to change how he sounded depending on his audience. Quentin Lucas, he tries to do it, but he's got the whole Aldi brand thing going. He's not the real deal. I saw, by the way, Quentin Lucas wearing a tan suit yesterday, trying to get his inner Obama going with the tan suit look, which, didn't really pull it off. Obama pulled it off better. But anyway, Quentin Lucas is able to do it better than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, it's like, just talk how you talk to people. What is with these folks? They change how they sound based on who they're talking to. Like, say what you want about Donald Trump, but Trump's talking to white people, black people, urban people, rural people, and he just sounds like Trump. He doesn't change. Trump doesn't try to sound like a gangster when he goes to the Bronx and starts doing rallies. He just talks like Donald Trump. But for some reason, these people want to change their accents depending on who their audience is. It's just the lowest form of pandering that you could possibly see and hear, and it's just gross, John.
Well, I remember when we used to call that cultural appropriation. Remember the old days?
Yeah,
right?
That's
They'd like
right.
to throw that at people for cultural appropriation.
Yes.
But
that
went away.
Lost their careers.
That went away, I guess, when you can relate and be anything you want.
Yeah.
So that cancels out cultural appropriation, I suppose.
Yeah, although I still think cultural appropriation applies if you're of the wrong skin color and associated with the wrong political party. You can still get canceled for cultural appropriation if you are a certain person,
Yep.
But if you're Kamala Harris or anyone else, you can't really get in trouble for the cultural appropriation. Just like Justin Trudeau up there in Canada with his blackface. He's never, gotten any trouble for that. But other people, of course, your career's going to end. You're a little kid, a little Chiefs fan at a game in Vegas, they'll destroy you. You're Justin Trudeau, just whistling past the graveyard. That's how it goes. Well, hallelujah, the DEI program at Mizzou is dead. Well done there by the University of Missouri. But, of course, the way it's being framed is very much biased, but also very much predictable as we get to 8:05 on a Wednesday morning. Great to have you here on KCMO 95.7 FM. So, Missouri eliminating its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The DEI program, which I call the Division, Exclusion, and Inequity program at the university. I mean, that's what DEI is. DEI is one of the great scams going in not just American politics, but, corporate America, higher education across the board. It is not about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is about division, exclusion, and inequity. It is about treating people differently based on their backgrounds. Instead of saying, as just a decent human being, I treat everybody the same, right? The folks I work with, sales, programming, anywhere across the Cumulus Kansas City cluster, white, black, male, female, I treat them with the same respect I want to be treated with. That's how, and then I'm not perfect at it because I'm not a perfect person. Nobody is. But that's kind of been, the old mantra. Treat others how you wish to be treated. DEI is not about that. It never has been. It is very Orwellian in terms of, how it gets pitched and how it gets promoted, but it's really about division. It's really about exclusion, and it's really about inequity. So Mizzou is dropping its DEI program. But first, before we get to the article in the Kansas City Star, here is how it is framed in a tweet by the guy who wrote it for the Kansas City Star. Kason Bayless writes here on X yesterday, Mizzou is eliminating its division of DEI as part of a reorg that splits the division across different parts of the university. The move comes as Republicans have in recent years taken aim at diversity efforts. I'm telling you, man, Orwell would be proud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wouldn't he, John?
Absolutely. He would be proud.
He'd be very proud. So now let's get to the article itself. All right. In the Kansas City Star, they write about this. They're obviously very upset. I mean, they are shedding crocodile tears ever since this news was announced because they love dividing people based on race and gender and background. I mean, that's what DEI is, and that's what they really enjoy doing at the Kansas City Star, whether it's the individuals they're covering, whether it's, in their newsrooms. This is kind of, part and parcel for how they like doing business. So, first off, they write here, University of Missouri System President Mun Choi framed the move as a proactive move due to the onslaught of legislation aimed at diversity efforts in the state. There it is, the big bad R word, the big bad Republicans in Jeff City going after diversity because they hate diversity. As I say that very much tongue-in-cheek. It also comes as Republicans in other states, such as Texas and Florida, have outright banned diversity offices at universities. Gosh, they are just so good at spewing the propaganda. Mun Choi, system president for Mizzou, says here, we're seeing the actions that have been taken in other states. There were divisions that were eliminated, the DEI divisions, and it resulted in larger staff layoffs. And in our case, we wanted to be proactive because those staff members serve an important role in ensuring success of our students. So here's the thing. It's good news on the surface that Mizzou is making this move. But I wonder, based on what I'm reading in the statement from Mizzou's president, whether or not they're just going to hide DEI within other departments. I mean, if you're not doing anything about the people who are staffing your DEI office, and if that's what their area of expertise is, if you're just going to implement DEI throughout the university in different ways, then are you really doing anything, or are you just kind of secretly doing DEI without having a DEI office, John? That's where the headline looks good, but I wonder what's really going on here.
Yeah, I think they outsmarted themselves by creating these offices and chairman of and, department of and all this kind of crap. They could have just slid it in and they will. It won't go away. You're right. It'll be still popular with the people it's popular with.
Yes. And that's kind of my concern. Like, I saw Mike Kehoe tweeted about this or posted on X about this yesterday. He's the lieutenant governor who's, of course, running for governor. He said, I'm thankful that President Choi and the University of Missouri decided to heed my call to eliminate this unnecessary division. The premise of DEI undermines individual responsibility, and these types of programs work against the university's efforts to prepare students to succeed in the workforce. In Missouri, we educate students, not indoctrinate them. It's a good statement from Kehoe, but I'm wondering if this is all smoke and mirrors. If the university is just eliminating, air quotes, its DEI office, but then infiltrating different parts of the university with the same employees who have no skill sets to speak of. I mean, if your skill sets are tied to basically telling people they're racist or something like that, or, they have to treat people differently based on their skin color and their gender and all this other nonsense, you don't have any talents. Let's be very clear. You have no discernible talent that has any value in, the free marketplace. None whatsoever. You're just a shill for a movement that breaks people down to being nothing more than their race and their gender and their sexual orientation. That's not a real skill. You don't have anything discernible that's of any value in a free market capitalistic system. So, if you put them out on the streets, they wouldn't find a job. So now they're just putting them in other parts of the university. And what are they doing? It's not like you're going from a DEI coordinator to a chemistry professor, right? You're not going from working in the DEI office to suddenly, going to the med school. You're not doing any of that. So what are you doing with these people outside of infiltrating DEI into other parts of the university and then getting to basically give Republicans an air quotes win by saying you've eliminated your DEI office? Have you actually done that? Is the question I'm going to continue to ask. But the Kansas City Star, of course, the way they frame this whole thing as if, the big bad Republicans in Jeff City, they just, they don't like diversity, so they're going after it, and Mizzou's got to respond because they're the victims here in all this, and, oh, it's so sad, it's so disappointing. It's like, well, no, it's not sad, it's not disappointing. My questions are actually, is this going to do anything? Is anything going to change? What Republicans in Jeff City, when they get back in the session, need to do is actually figure out what happened with the budget for the DEI office at Mizzou. I mean, if the DEI office had $1 million budget and now you've just scattered that $1 million to other departments and all those people are still employed, then they're implementing the same stuff without having the official DEI office. And that's what Republicans, if they're smart, are going to be thinking about. Not just putting posts up about it on social media and acting like they got some big win. Because there's more here than just that. Much more than just that going on. And the folks that run Mizzou are not dumb. They know what they're doing. As always, the smartest guy on the Jackson County Legislature is our buddy Sean Smith, who put together a proposal this week to try to figure out how to keep the Chiefs and or the Royals in Kansas City, specifically at the Truman Sports Complex. So this is kind of this issue that continues to permeate in the background. We don't know what is going on with these two teams, what their future is going to hold. We now know we have a full-blown border war between Missouri and Kansas, but a lot of this is on hold right now because there's an election coming up next Tuesday. We don't know who the next governor of Missouri is going to be. We don't really know what the Royals want. We don't know where they want to be. The Chiefs have talked about, potentially building new in Missouri and Kansas. They may be over Arrowhead Stadium. All these things are up in the air. But this was proposed this week by Sean Smith on the Jackson County Legislature, and it's the best idea that we've had come out of that legislature in a long while. Now, that's not saying much in fairness. I mean, I like Sean, but we are truly talking about the tallest short man here conversation when you talk about the smartest guy in the Jackson County Legislature. You've had a bunch of big mouths and loud mouths like Manny Abarca, who, dull as a rock. You've got Frank White, who's too busy tapping guys on the tush as they get down to first base for the Kansas City Monarchs as the first base coach. It's just it's a group of mostly unserious people. So now they're trying to figure out, what do we do here, right? The 3/8 cent sales tax got voted down back in April, and now they're trying to figure out, what can we do as a county to, especially the Chiefs, keep them where they are at Arrowhead? Well, there's been two ideas that have been floated out there. One came from legislator Manny Abarca to try, what he's trying to do is get the 3/8 cent sales tax vote on the ballot in November, and all the money could go to the Chiefs. That hasn't really gone anywhere. What Sean Smith is doing is proposing a change to the sales tax initiative surrounding what a sales tax would theoretically look like in Jackson County. And here's what he has proposed. He has proposed changing the language from the Chiefs to Truman Sports Complex and reducing the tax amount from 3/8 cents to 1/4 cents. And also add a sunset date to end the tax within 5 years of whatever time there are no teams left at the sports complex. So basically, if there are no teams at the sports complex one day, the tax goes away. The county could not just say, hey, oh yeah, that tax that's been on the books for decades, we're just going to, roll with it. We're going to keep it where it is, and we'll do something else with your money because we're entitled to your money. That's always the attitude of government. And Sean Smith is saying, no, if there are ever no teams playing at the complex, then the tax should not exist, which is a great point. Now, if the teams want to move away from the complex and stay in Jackson County, that should be a different conversation with the taxpayer. And on top of that, what it would do is it would reduce taxes from 3/8 cents to 1/4 cent sales tax. And let's be honest, the Royals are gone. The Royals are leaving Truman Sports Complex. There's no way they're staying. They hopefully will stay in the Kansas City area, whether it's downtown KC Mo whether it's looking back at North KC, whether it's looking at the Kansas side, I don't know. But they're gone. So if you're the Chiefs and you can get a quarter-cent sales tax exclusively to yourself to stay at the Truman Sports Complex, that's a better deal than what you had previously when you were splitting 3/8 of a cent. Not to get too far into the math here at, 8:23 in the morning, but you divide 3/8 of a cent, you get 3/16 of a cent. A quarter cent is more than 3/16 of a cent. So you're getting more money if you're the Chiefs. This is a good deal for you. And it's also a good deal for the taxpayer. Or I should say a better deal for the taxpayer. Whether or not it's a good deal is up to you. But it's a better deal for the taxpayer at a quarter cent than 3/8 of a cent. So this is something that if Frank White is serious as county executive, and there's a lot of reasons to believe that he's not, but if he is serious about trying to negotiate in good faith and find the best deal possible for the taxpayer, this would be a way to try to make it happen. This would be a way to get people on the side of the teams, but also on the side of the county legislature, and say, hey, here's what would make sense for everybody. If we likely only have one team at the complex, then they will get this quarter-cent sales tax. On the outside chance you get two teams at the complex, very unlikely, but if you get it, then either way, it's a good deal for you, the taxpayer, because your taxes go down. What's not to like about that? At 913-408-7957. That's our text line. That is our studio line here on KCMO 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Let's fit in before the bottom of the hour. Chris, he is in Leawood. Chris, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, I enjoy your show, and I've been following the stadium issues for a long time. And I think the comments you're making this morning and what you're telling us is good news. I think it's important people always remember that the whole point of this exercise was to get downtown baseball. And what you define as downtown baseball, not you, but what people define as downtown baseball is different for different people. For some people, it's in the Loop. For some people, it's in the Crossroads. For some people, it's in North Key of the City. For some people, it's in the West Bottoms. But I do think that busting the Royals out of Truman Sports Complex is a great idea and leaving it to the Chiefs is a great idea because if you've ever watched stadiums get built, and I'll use examples like Yankee 3, which is the current stadium, was built across the parking lot. So once Royal Stadium is demolished, you instantly have the next site for Arrowhead 2. And I just think it makes way too much sense to get the Royals out of Truman Sports Complex, keep the Chiefs there, and they will, by proxy, they will have their future site right across the parking lot where they can build the house that Mahomes built in 10 or 15, 20 years, whatever it is, when the useful life of the current Arrowhead is done.
I love it, Chris, and I totally agree with you, man. Thank you. That is something that, for everybody involved, makes sense. We get why the Royals want to leave. A lot of us love the K, but we get why they want to go. From a business and a baseball perspective, we get it. If you are Clark Hunt, if you are the Chiefs, and you already have the ingress, egress you need there, people know the area, they like the area, they love the stadium, they like the complex, you've got what you need to build a new stadium if and when that time comes, right? Right next door to where you're at, which helps alleviate some of the issues with parking, with getting people in and out of the stadium. There's too much there that makes sense. Rather than going over to Kansas and starting brand new and changing your highways and the whole thing. You've got exactly what you need where you're at. And that's why what this really is, what Sean Smith, I believe, is really doing with this proposal, is trying to get the Chiefs more money than they would have gotten, while still giving the people of Jackson County a tax cut. It makes too much sense, which means it probably isn't going to happen in Jackson County because stuff that makes sense doesn't get done in Jackson County, which is, really the main problem here. The place is run by too many imbeciles. But if you're actually looking at this from afar and saying what makes sense, this is it. Keep the Chiefs where they're at. Encourage them to stay. Give them a place to build if and when that time comes. And then you get the Royals out of Dodge and let them do what they want, where they want.